What up? So I am back in Arkansas, and I'm actually working on my newest version of the Nova brackets, which is now version 5. But just a little update. I got the rest of Tom's chassis welded yesterday. Dennis and I are getting ready to put the chassis back on the chassis table, bolt all the suspension to it, put the body back on, and actually today it will roll off the chassis table. Then he's gonna start fitting doors, deck lid, front end, all that kind of stuff. And then after that, I'm not sure exactly what's gonna happen with it. I don't know if Tom and his guys will finish it or if they want it to stay here. So that's up in the air, but it's still gonna be a pretty cool video. Just of us assembling, going back together, because my stupid phone screwed up and didn't actually get my time lapse of us taking the body off. But side note, aside from doing the Nomad, here I'm going to show you all the different revisions that I've went through of the Nova brackets, and now I've actually came to a 2-piece bracket that I'm going to weld together and then ship out as 1 piece. But I was trying to keep it all in one, but with where the shock is versus where the control arm mounts, I couldn't get the shock mount somewhere to where I can actually unfold everything and it be cut as 1 piece, because they would all hit each other. So here's what I got, and here's what I'm thinking. So this is my final version. It's actually gonna look a lot like the regular brackets I have now, but it's gonna, instead of having a shock piece that bends down here, I'm gonna have a separate, it's basically gonna be, I'm gonna design a universal shock mount that fits right in here, so I can sell a universal mount on my site, and I'll also use that same mount that fits right in here to mount the shock that I'll just weld around, because I tried to have it to where these, I bent tabs down here, but there's no actual, any possible tool path in the world that can bend that tight of a radius that I need in this thickness of metal. So that option kind of went out the door. But here's where I started at. Here's my first Nova bracket there, and it basically was not close at all, but it's almost the exact same as what the G body brackets were. Here's my second Nova bracket. I screwed it up majorly, so then here's my V3, which I thought was gonna be super close, but was a little too big. Then I got V4. That's where I bent the tabs down. That ain't gonna work. So now I'm at V5. So basically these tabs right here will just be a U-bend with these tabs that I will bolt in to, or that I will weld in to right here. So that's printing right now. I'm gonna go get started and get to work on getting that Nomad chassis back on the jig and the body back on the chassis, so that way I can get back to welding up the G body brackets and lift plates that I now have for sale. So if you haven't seen those, let me show you the new sights on Nicky Bobby Inc. Where's Nicky Bobby Inc? Right, oh, that's my Shopify. You can't see that. Sorry, classified information. Here we go. So here's the new lift plates. Bada boom, bada bing. Designed by Bruner himself, called punch plates. They look like brass knuckles. Super cheap, 50 bucks. Then I've got the new and improved Nicky Bobby Inc. long travel brackets. These now have my logo in them. They're clearanced for if you already have TRZ arms. This little notch right here is for the TRZ arms because people were having to notch them. And I put this little, that bad boy right there, so that way you can basically take a punch and bend this in and then mount your shock shock travel sensor right there. It gives you a little tab to fold in. So those are the new improvements on that. Nothing crazy. As you can see, I did round the fillets here and those edges because those are pointy and people, said I should fix those. So fixed a few little things on that, but mainly been working on the Nova brackets. So that's where I'm at now. I've got, hopefully, I believe in the next week or so, I'm going to be getting Eddie's car in here and working on the red Mustang. That is the last customer car that I'm ever gonna do. And then it's gonna be an awesome build. There's a lot of things that I wanna print for it. Like I wanna make the gas cap where the gas tank fill neck was. I wanna make that the fill for the ice tank, which is gonna be back there. Then I'm gonna make some bulkhead stuff. I'm gonna print some bulkhead stuff. I've got all kinds of creative ideas for that. And then I may also be heading to Georgia to do a collaboration with another YouTuber that is pretty well known, but we haven't set the plans in stone yet, but I'm excited about that. It's gonna include big blocks, blowers, and loud noises. So I'm gonna go get to work and I will take you guys along with me. All right, boys, the new print is done. This is my next revision of the travel bracket, and then just like a little universal shock mount will go in there and get welded, so that way these bins don't get all messed up. So I'm gonna break this thing off, and then I'll show you what Dennis and I did on the Nomad yesterday. So here is my universal shock mount, boy. Print's done. I just showed you. Now I'm gonna go print this while I get to work on the Nomad. Dennis went over a bunch of stuff with me yesterday. Him and I set the chassis back on, the suspension on the frame table. Then we set the body back on, and then he was just telling me all the other stuff that needs done, so him and I are gonna work together on that stuff. He kind of told me how he wanted stuff done, which he knows way better than I do, so I actually started working on a transmission mount that is also a slider last night, and he showed me how to bend tubes with torch, so I've never done that before. But here is, before I get sidetracked with all that, here's what I'm thinking for this Nova travel bracket. Since, like I said before, to make these two bins would be too much, so that's why I left this out. But now I've got this piece, so this could just act as a universal shock mount that you could literally weld anywhere. But now that little piece right there will fit right inside there. And I'll just weld like I normally do, just weld right there. So that way I could have two pieces that make one, or just sell one piece individually. So I already put that on my little SD card right here. I'm gonna go get this thing started printing, and I'm gonna go get to work on the Nomad. Check this out, boys. Bam. So I actually took this down a little bit to allow for more room, but I think I'm gonna end up putting it back, putting this notch back, so that way this will actually sit. That'll actually sit right in there. So I don't have to have that gap. I can put that back and then my shock will sit right here. Bada boom, bada bing. Then I just weld that up right there. Pardon my supports, I haven't got them off yet. I haven't found the easiest way to get all those junk supports off there yet, but this is pretty stinking cool if you ask me. Look at that. Look at that. So I just measured this, and I just got done printing it, 12 freaking hours. And this right here measures the outside to outside is 8.1, and it's supposed to be 7.75 to fit inside where I need it to fit inside the A-arms. So now I have to go back through my Fusion file and change my sketch to see if I can fix it. But sometimes when you try stuff in Fusion, the sketch and the bends, they get all screwed up because then the bend radiuses get into each other. So I'm going to see if I can fix this without screwing anything up. Oh yeah, it'll get me demonetized. So what we're doing here is Dennis wanted to put transmission on sliders, so he actually taught me how to bend tubing yesterday without a tubing bender.
Yeah, I don't have a die for, what is it, 3/4 inch?
Yeah, 3/4.
Yep.
So used rosebud oxyacetylene deal in that vise right over there, and he bent one and then handed it to me and said do the other. But he showed me how to do it first. But I got both these tubes made and put in there, and that one over there only took me about 4 hours and almost the whole sanding belt over there of grinding on it. He said if you take any more off that, you better just get an air grinder. So that tube's made, this tube's made, and we're making little brackets that come up and around so that way this can slide back, they can change the torque converter. So Dennis is showing me how to run a lathe, but I've never used a lathe before, never used half the tools he has in his shop. I'm of the Harbor Freight generation, the cookie CNC cutters generation. Yeah, and
normally you'd draw that out, and here's my issue with that. I mean, some people, the fancy people, have a CNC plasma cutter in shop and they're good with the software, but for me, every bracket's different, and I know the good guys can draw that up in 8 seconds and cut it out on a plasma, but I don't have the room or the need for it. So you did that on a bandsaw and it looks just about as good.
Yeah, it took me a long time, but yeah, I'm just trying to make sure I get it right. That way I'm not having to make a bunch of adjustments. But
yeah, the next three will go like 8 seconds.
Super fast. So what we're doing is this is gonna bolt on the transmission, and then we're cutting, he's got a piece of tube that's really thick, and we're gonna turn the inside down to fit that 3/4 tube, cut it in half, weld it on here, so this basically has a hook on it. So this will bolt to the transmission, the hook will set on that slider tube, and we'll put hose clamps around it. So then when you want to move the transmission back, loosen the hose clamps, and this slides.
So it's actually a transmission mount / slider.
Yep.
You know, the transmission is supported with all the mid plate and everything. It's pretty self-supporting, but we're going to put hose clamps around it at the back. You're going to put some stabilizer tubes to help stiffen that 3/4 tube up. That'll hold the transmission, or keep it from vibrating, whatever. It doesn't need much. You'll be able to slide that all the way back. The way you set it up is, I'll go back, what is that, 10 or 12 inches, 10 inches probably. And then if that's not enough to get the converter out, you'll be able to raise it up, slide it on back, and the converter will sit on your tubes. So it'll be nice. I mean, that's a big help.
Yep, it's slow progress, but this is kind of in there in the junction of everything, in the middle of everything. And I want these, basically I'm trying to make those two tubes the exact same height and perfectly square with the transmission, because when you're sliding something, it has to be square or else it'll bind up and suck. So
one of the things to come is the real transmission. That's just an empty case. Will have a gear vendor adapter on the back of it, not that tail housing. So when I built the chassis, it's all very tight, but with the gear vendor and the spacer, it'll slide back into those two upright tubes, so we can actually slide the thing back, plenty far enough to get the converter out.
That way they're not dropping it on their heads or anything like that.
We know making a converter change can suck.
Especially when they're hot, good Lord.
This one will be very easy. We probably need to make a handle to attach here, so when you do that, you can just pick
Lift
it up, make it easy.
That'd be awesome. Cool. All right, well, we're going to turn down that piece and cut it in half, and then I'm going to keep going.
Let's do it.
Come on. It's a good thing I don't have any hair. I've seen horror stories of people get their hair caught in the lathes.
It's worse if you get your shirt or something caught in there. I see these from India a lot, these Pakistan, whatever, videos, and they'll be working in their robes, and it's so close, it scares me to death. So when I was in high school, we had wood shop, and a girl got her hair, I think it was wood shop, I don't remember what it was, I wasn't in the class. One of the classes, they had a buffer, and the girl got her hair caught in there, and it scalped her. I didn't see it, but the stories of it.
Have you ever got hurt by one?
Nope, never have.
Nice.
Been doing it since high school. So what I would do, we've already drilled the hole, so we just bored out some 1-inch DOM tubing with I think it had a 5/8 hole in it, and we bored it out to 3/4. So we're just going to cut it here, and instead of getting too carried away with it, I would just put this right here, roll it over till it matches up.
Yeah, and then I was going to make it a little longer.
Oh, you're going to do
the hose clamps,
right?
Yeah, so it needs to be like 3.5 long is what I measured.
Okay, let's find a tape measure then. Or is there a caliper here?
There's a tape measure right here.
Here's a caliper. Let's do that. So 3.5 is going to put us. Is that drill bit even 3.5? That's pretty long. You really need it that long?
No, I could actually cut this down so that way we don't have to do super
you only
long.
need. You're going to put a hose clamp on both sides or one side?
I was going to do both sides, but if we only need one, then we could just do.
It doesn't have to be 3.5. I'd say with a 3 1/8 anyway. So I can probably fit that. The drill bit. We got to scoot this back a little bit. So we're just going to loosen. This is a very precise 3-jaw chuck. Some of them are not. Chinese chucks are not very accurate, but this one is very accurate, as you can see. Don't worry, I'm a professional. I'm not going to cut my fingers off.
I hope not.
No. If it was going to happen, it happened a long time ago. So you'd like them to be 3/4 inch out?
Yeah, that's fine.
I think that's too much. Let's go 3 1/4.
Okay.
So that measures 3 1/4. This cutter's a little dirty, a little worn out, and it's also bent. It's lived a pretty hard life. I really should slow it down just a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
It's so much better than just cutting it with a saw. See, you can see that the way the cutter's set up, if you look back in the groove, the cut is tapered this way. So when it cuts, it'll fall off. Otherwise, if it was angled the other way, you'd have a burr on the edge of that pipe. But it'll cut it off of the pipe will fall off, and it'll leave the little piece on the piece that's in the chuck. Like I say, this bit's very worn out. See, it cut that piece off second. So it cut it off nice and clean. But now what I would do, come in, get the stock out of there, put this back in. take a file and just radius that edge a little bit and knock the burrs off of the end. Lots of ways to do it. You can put a bit in the thing, but that'll be fine like that. So now it's got a 3/4 inch hole in it.
Nice. So now I just got to cut it in half.
Yeah,
and then it gives me
that.
2 brackets out of that one piece.
That's right. I stand it up on the bandsaw like this and cut. Otherwise, if you go in this way,
It's going to be all crooked.
yeah, and our blade is a little bit worn. So if you at least go in like this and make the scribe line, it'll go in halfway. Go in halfway, you can do it that way. You'll have something to follow, but that's the way I do it. So you're going to have this set up. Well, it'll be kind of like that.
Yeah.
That'd be a nice break.
It's going to be real nice. Then 2 more to go. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Bring the band in. Woo! Well, all right. Yeah, they want me to fit in, but I can't. I'm too different with it. Too advanced to think. You know my intuition. I got bars and ink, but never in a prison. Too far gone, never gonna sit and listen. This is optimism mixed with the best. You get it? What you're seeing is a beast in the flesh. I'm vetted up. I don't need to try speak for the rest. Always keep it abrupt. They wanna keep it a mess, you know. This is what you get when you're sitting as a vet. But everybody know that you're a threat. With the rest, let's go. We won't fit in a box. We don't quit, we won't stop. Ride us all to the top. We won't fit in your, we won't fit in your, we won't fit in your box. No, we don't quit, we won't stop. No, ride us all to the top.
So what I did was put the bracket on and rotated this around until it touched, tacked it on there so it perfectly fits on that tube. Now I'm going to weld it up and continue making the other 4. 3 of them.
To unlock, I know the locksmith, optics, speak of the loss, I'm eating lobster, chopsticks, freaking the boss, you know, I'll never fit in where I go at, boss talk like I'm Boaz, why fit in when you know you can stand out still, they remember you more when you hand out deals, let's go. We won't fit in your box, we don't quit, we won't stop, ride us all to the top, we won't fit in your, we won't fit in your, we won't fit in your box, no. We won't stop, no. Ride us up to the top, we won't fit in your box, no. Don't box me in, I do my own thing, spirit is right within. I got my own way, violent is not within. Look at the way that I do my ops again, better let me loose, you know that I got the juice, everything I got to do, words that I speak out my mouth, I gotta move,
All right, boys, that is it for today. I know this video probably wasn't super long, but Alex and their fam's actually heading out to go to Disney World in Vegas, and she's going to film, so they'll be gone the most of the week next week, and I'm gonna stay here to get work done because I've got the one customer car I need to get back in here and I need to get done, and then once I get that car done, which won't be till later, I don't think, in the season, it needs to be done for drag week, but then I might start working on Uncle Sam again. I've just been trying to hit the business side of things really hard and help Dennis get some stuff out of here. So the videos that I'm gonna be posting will kind of just be like daily vlog almost, not daily, but every other daily vlog or something. But yeah, so we covered what? We covered the Nova brackets and covered the transmission mounts. Tomorrow I'm going to be welding up my lift plates and the brackets that are going out. Now I'm going to put Def in Alex's truck.
Sorry.
She's very needy.